Hey everyone, continuing our recent discussions on today's society, today I'd like to discuss education and the dangers of propaganda in textbooks. Now, education is a topic that is important to me. I look at education as the removal of ignorance from our youth. Many people think of education as just a means to an end, the end being a job. Too many people see schooling and education as just training for someone to get a good job. But looking at education in that way is too short-sighted. There is much more to school and education than just getting a job that pays well. I mean, yes, a good paying job can be a result of your education, but that shouldn't be the main goal. The main goal of education should be the edification of the mind. We need to learn about our world, about our past, and how those things affect us today and how they will affect us in the future. We need education to eliminate ignorance, the willful lack of knowledge. We need to be taught facts and truths. And if what we are teaching is not 100% fact, we need to state that as well. There need to be disclaimers about certain things. For example, if we are not sure why something happens in the natural world, we need to say scientists are not completely sure why X happens, but most agree that it is probably because of Y. We shouldn't say X because of Y unless we are 100% sure, because science changes. But other things need to be taken into account with the same consideration. We need to provide factual evidence, not conjecture, not opinions. And if we do provide opinions, both sides need to be given. This is important at every level of education. However, I find that the worst offenders are colleges and universities. What I mean by offenders is many colleges and universities are now teaching certain topics and subjects that are extremely biased and subjective. There is an inherent spin to these subjects, and too many people are being led astray by the lies and misinformation provided in these classes. I myself have taken a class just like this. I will leave out the name of the institution and the name of the professor, but I will heavily criticize the textbook we were given and the author. The class was Introduction to Sociology. It was an elective I took just to make sure I had enough credits to graduate, and it really had nothing to do with my major. That said, I do enjoy sociology, though I don't exactly take it seriously. There are some reasons for this, but I won't get into them right now. Our textbook was titled You May Ask Yourself, and for the most part, I had no issues with it. I mean, there were a lot of opinions in the book, which is one inherent problem with sociology, but again, I won't get into that now. But for the most part, I either did not disagree completely or I did not care. I researched some of the statistics provided, and many of them were misleading, to say the least. It wasn't until the end of the book where I got to some statistics that were just downright lies. Let me be clear here. If you want to misinterpret studies, falsify data, misrepresent statistics, or other unethical and unscrupulous behavior of that nature for a political agenda, while I completely disagree with it, you are free to do so. However, when you do those things in a college textbook, you have gone too far. It's one thing to lie to try to get money for your cause, but it's another to teach a generation of students those lies. You don't get to rewrite history or select which statistics you wish to report and which you do not. You don't get to purposefully misrepresent data. Dalton Conley, the author of the book, is a complete fraud. In a textbook, you don't get to spew propaganda. It's a textbook intended to teach. If you want to write a book and give your opinions, lie, or whatever, that's fine. Write your book. But don't write a textbook. That's obviously not your calling. Your calling is probably to give speeches at rallies and write opinion pieces. But if you're going to write a textbook for a college level course, you have to be more objective. We have to provide facts, not opinions. You have to report the data accurately, not just in the way that makes your point more valid. But he is not the only culprit. The professor is just as guilty. The questions she gave us for our quizzes, and especially in the final exam, were extremely biased and loaded with propaganda themselves. I was stuck, wondering if I should answer the question correctly, or if I should give the wrong answer that she wanted to hear. I was almost willing to sacrifice some points off of the final just to make a point. But I was spared because during the essay question portion of the exam, I was given the opportunity to call her and the book out on its propaganda and lies. The offending question read something like this: Beef is the tastiest of all meats. Why do you think this is? Why does society force us to eat beef? There are many problems with this question. First of all, which meat is the tastiest is subjective. I happen to like lamb better than beef, and I know plenty of people who love bacon. Second, society does not force us to eat beef. There are vegetarians and vegans. There are also people who don't eat red meat for health reasons. In every respect, the question is wrong. The question should have been this: Is beef the tastiest of all meats? Why or why not? Should society force us to eat beef? Use plenty of examples to support your stance. That is a college level final exam question. Critical thinking, examples, justification for your stance. The first question is loaded, full of propaganda and opinion. It leads you. From the start, you are forced to agree with the premise it sets forth. It is wrong. It's not the way to teach. Even if the idea behind the question is correct, even if beef were the tastiest of all meats, that's not the way to word a question at an educational level where you're trying to instill the principles of critical thinking to the students. The problem with certain classes is that they are political. For decades, certain parties have been trying to get their propaganda taught in schools and made into law. And now, those parties have been successful. We're being taught lies in school, at every level. And that, in turn, is causing people who have graduated from college and universities to enact laws that are based on those lies that they were taught. It has come full circle. This is a danger. I cannot stress that enough. We are in danger of being overrun with lies and propaganda. Even this country's highest leaders are using the false data and incorrect statistics. Even they have been duped. And if they haven't been duped, then they are perpetuating the problem on purpose. And I'm not sure which is worse. I could forgive them for being conned, because I was conned at one point myself. But if they are purposefully telling lies for the sake of furthering their political careers, or even extending their political careers, well, that I cannot and will not forgive. It's easy to believe what you read and what you hear, especially when it comes from authorities like government officials and college textbooks. But you must question it all, at least for the sake of confirming what you believe. If you hear something, research it. You have at your disposal all the materials you need to conduct the research. I did, and I have changed my opinions on many things, because I've read and I've learned. But most importantly, speak up. If a college textbook is wrong or is lying, say something. Speak up. Let people know that you shouldn't just believe what you're told, and demand that your textbooks be propaganda free. Otherwise, the future of education is very bleak.